we were young in Sunday school. Genesis chapter 6, verses 5 through 8, the story of Noah. It starts out in verse 5. It says, "Then the Lord saw the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and then every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually." And verse 6 says, "And the Lord was sorry that he had made man on the earth, and he was grieved in his heart." I just want to stop there for just a second. God had just created man. Created him in his own image, created him from the dust of the earth, had breathed his breath into man. And now God is beside himself, and it says that he was sorry that he had made man. I want you to think about that for just a second, that God was sorry that he made man. He goes for something that was great, something that was good, and now that he's sorry that he created man. Continue on in verse 7. "So the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, creeping thing, and birds of the air, for I am sorry that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord." I just want to skip down to verse 16. It says, now God is talking to Noah, and he's talking about how he should build the ark. And it says, "You should make a window for the ark, and you should finish it to the cubit from above, and set the door of the ark in its side. You shall make it lower, second, and third decks." Genesis chapter 7, verse 13 through 16 said, "On this very same day, Noah and his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and Noah's wife, and 3 wives of his sons were with him, entered the ark. They and every beast of its kind, all cattle of their kind, and every creeping thing that creeps on the earth of every kind, and every bird after its kind, every bird of every sort. And they went into the ark, 2 by 2, of all the flesh, of which is the breath of life. Souls that entered, male and female of flesh, went in as God commanded him, and the Lord shut him in." I just want to read just a different translation of verse 16 from the New Living Translation. It says, "Male and female of every kind entered just as God commanded Noah. Then the Lord closed the door behind them." I've titled this message this morning, "There is an Open Door." There is an open door. You may be seated. When we talk about a door, that's pretty common to us. To get in the sanctuary, to get in the church this morning, we had to come through some doors. Either you came through the front set of doors, or you came through the side set of doors. What exactly is a door? It's an access. It allows access or blocks it off. It's an entrance into an enclosed space, such as a building or room. Sometimes it's a barrier to keep the noise out, but it's also there to keep us safe. How many, maybe you don't want to admit, how many of you've seen a door that you've pulled on that you should have pushed? Or maybe you pushed on a door that you should have pulled. I always get a little confused when I get in those. You ever been in those revolving doors? And you're like, man, is this thing ever going to open? You just kind of walk beside it. But there's all kinds of different doors. There's beautiful doors. There's wooden doors. There's just different kind of doors. I looked up. I want to know what the heaviest doors in the world were. The heaviest doors in the world are located in the Cheyenne Mountain Complex, where the United States Space Force is located. Each door weighs 25 tons and can withstand a 30 megaton blast from a nuclear weapon that is dropped as close as 1.2 miles away. Just to cause a crack in one of these doors, the bomb that was dropped on Nagasaki, Japan, would have to explode 1,429 times just to crack one of these doors. These doors have been left open since 1992, but they closed for just a few hours during 9/11. They're shut only once a day, and that's only to make sure that they still close in case there's a threat. Those doors are there to protect what's inside. And so I opened up, but I read a scripture about God closing the door, but I want to focus on the door that was open. You see, that door was not closed right away. Noah left that door open. When he built the ark, God specifically told him, "Noah, I want you to put a door in the side of the ark." What was that door there for? It was to allow Noah to go inside. It was allow the animals to go inside. But you see, that door was not just made for Noah and his family. It was there for those that were willing to go where somewhere that was safe. But you see, that door was open for almost 100 years, or pretty much 100 years. Noah was 500 years old when he started building the ark. And when the rain came, he was 600 years old. 100 years, that door was open. I can only imagine the people that walked by that door every day. They made comments to Noah, what are you doing? Why are you building? What is this thing? And every day they walked by their own salvation. Every day they walked by a chance to be saved. Because that door remained open. But after a while, they just became complacent. It was just something that they just saw, like a tree that they walked by every morning. They didn't even recognize it. But still, the door remained open. And I could only imagine Noah saying, hey, this door is there for you. This door is here for your salvation. This door is going to save you. I'm here to tell somebody, as long as the door is open, there is salvation. As long as that door stays open, don't go by that door. It's for you to be saved. And so Noah, day after day, continues to build the ark. And I can only imagine that it became a fanfare, that people would just stop by and watch this crazy old man building something. Every day it's sunny. Why is he building an ark? What is going to happen? What is happening? And they began to mock him and laugh at him because they thought that it was never going to be used. But still the door remained open. It did not close. And so now as it's getting closer to the time of when it's going to rain, now Noah begins to collect the animals that God had asked him to collect. And as the animals were going two by two, I believe that Noah was still trying to get people to understand that this door is for you. This is not meant for me and my family, but it's also meant for you. And they probably still said, no, you're crazy, and continued to laugh at him. You see, the door of the ark symbolizes God's justice and mercy, judging the wicked world and saving the righteous, Noah and his family. It also symbolizes that there was only one way to be saved from the physical consequences of the flood. And so now, as the animals get in and Noah's standing there, and now these people are there, and now it's beginning to rain. It may be not raining very hard. Maybe it might be just a drop here and there. But you see, the people still were not convinced because the door was still open. There was no need for urgency. There was not anything that was going to happen because the door was still open. But you see, God had a plan. You see, when God's going to do something, he always makes a way for his people. He still loves those, even though he might cause destruction, even though he might cause some heartache and pain, there's still a door that is open. And so now as it begins to rain harder, maybe it was starting to get up to people's ankles, but I don't think they were still moved because the door was still open. But you see, there was a time when God said, that's enough, and God shut the door. I think that that's when people begin to realize that the door that's been open for 100 years is not open anymore. And once God closes a door, he will not open it. And once God makes up his mind, he never goes back. And now the door is closed. And I can only imagine Noah and his family listening to people beat on the side of the ark. Noah, open the door. Noah, it's getting wet out here. Noah, I can't swim. And Noah can only listen as people bang on the door. And he can hear the children screaming and crying and asking their parents, why is this happening? Why is the door not opening? You need to understand, friend, as long as the door's open, as long as the church doors are open, that you still can come inside. Don't sit there and wait till God closes the door. Don't wait till God says now is enough. But the door is always open. people that should have been on the ark perished that day. God wiped out everything that he created. He wiped it out, but spared Noah and his family because they realized that there was an open door. In Exodus chapter 12, verses 7, now we have the picture. Now the Israelites are now in Egypt. And God has come to Moses and says, I'm going to wipe out the firstborn. But there's something that I want you to do. There's something that I need you to do for me. And that is, I need you to take the blood of a lamb. Blood of a lamb that's perfect. Blood of a lamb that is good. And I want you to take that blood and I want you to put it above your doorposts. I want you to put it above the door. What is the significance of that? It's to let God know that as he passed, that he would not touch those that had the blood of the lamb above their door. That when he passed, he knew that when they were inside, that they were saved. They had to be within that door. They had to be through that door. They couldn't be outside. They couldn't be anywhere in the yard, but they had to be through that door that was covered with the blood of the lamb. Sometimes I wonder if we would just take a moment and every time that we walked in our house that we just didn't pray as we walked in. Why? Because ask God for anointing. Ask God for his blood to cover your household. You see, you don't realize that the enemy is going to try to come in. He's going to come in through the door that we're used to coming through. He's going to attach himself to somebody that you may not even know, a friend, and he's going to come through the door. But oh, I pray that we would go through the door and we would ask God for a covering. So when God walks and goes across, he knows that there's a house that I dwell in. There's a house that loves me. And the enemy knows I can't go through that door. I can't go into that door. That door is covered by that lamb. That door is covered by the blood of the God. The door signified God's protection for the Israelites. It foreshadows the need to be covered by the blood of a perfect lamb. I'm here to tell you this morning that the Lord's judgment is coming. But all whose doors are covered by the lamb's blood are going to be spared. Just like Israelite was spared for the plague of their firstborn being killed because of the blood of the lamb. But you see, sometimes our victory is on the other side of a door. Sometimes the enemy puts a door in front of us. I'm reminded in Joshua 6:1 as the Israelites were coming to Jericho, it says, now Jericho was securely shut up because of the children of Israel. None went out and none went in. There was a door that had been closed. There was a door that was sealed shut. They did not want the Israelites to come in. They felt secure when they were behind the door. But you see, sometimes when God does something, he doesn't go through the obvious place. He doesn't go through the door. And as we know in the story, the Israelites did not go through the front door, but they began to do something that was out of the ordinary. They did something that Jericho was not expecting. They went ahead and trusted God, and they began to walk around their problem. I'm here to tell somebody, if your victory's on the other side of the door, don't expect God to take you through the door, but you might have to do a little fasting. You might have to do a little praying. You might have to do something out of the ordinary, because God is not a God of the ordinary, because God is going to do something different. And we all know that Jericho came down because they trusted God. And I believe that the door, they were saying, but there's a door. There was a door. That door should have kept them out. But we have a God that doesn't go through the front door. We have a God that's not a God of the ordinary. And Jericho was taken that day. You see, in the police department, there's a special unit called the SWAT team. They're called Special Weapons and Tactics. And their job is to go get those who decide not to play nice and hide themselves behind a door. When I was a paramedic, I got a privilege to be on a SWAT raid one time. And this person decided that he was going to barricade himself behind the door. Well, you need to understand that the SWAT team is different than your normal officers. They will, and I repeat, they will get your door down. They have something that's called a ram. It's just a big, heavy piece of iron tool, and they'll start banging your door. If that doesn't take your door down, they have something that they attach to what they call their Bearcat, and Bearcats are a big armored vehicle that looks like a tank on wheels. I want one, Brother Bentley. What I could do with a Bearcat would be awesome. But that's beside the point. But they can attach a device, and they could ram your door, or some I've even seen, they kind of put a harpoon in, and then they back up, and they tear the door down. They're going to find a way into your home. But do you know where the most deadly place for the SWAT team is? It's right inside the door. When they enter into the door, they call it the funnel of death. Why is that such an unsafe place? It's because the place is where they have to enter. When they stack up and when they go inside, they're all in that place. And that's where they're most harmed. That's where most officers are killed, is coming into the door. But I'm here to tell you, regardless of the door that the enemy has placed before you, you can get through that door. If you can't pray your way through it, then fast your way through it. If you can't fast your way through it, then start walking around through it. But I'm here to tell you, you will get through that door. You have a God that will get you through that door. No matter what the enemy tries to put for you, that God will get you through the open door. You don't have to die at the door, but you can go into the door. Many times in our walk with God, God opens and closes doors. But sometimes we want to stay at a certain door that we think God should open for us. And we waste our time banging on a door that God is not going to open. And we get mad. And we wonder why aren't you opening the door? But what we don't realize is when one door shuts, God opens another door. I wonder how many times in our life have we missed the doors that God has opened behind us. But God, I like this door because this door is comfortable. I like this door, fits me better, Brother Bentley. I like this door. God's like, but I've got that closed for a reason. We spend time in prayer and asking God to open doors, but yet we stand at one door and we don't realize the doors that are open behind us. Hey, here's something that God spoke to me. He said, but not only that, I open the door, but you stand there and you don't go through. I'm there on the other side. Your miracle's on the other side. Your victory's on there, but you're content with just standing at the door. If we want things done in our life, if we want things accomplished, we have to go through the door. God didn't open the door for our benefit only, but we have to go through it. And I know in my own personal walk that I've spent too many times staring at a door that God was not going to open. Sister Bentley, I've argued with God and said, God, but no, this is where I need to go. And God's like, no, Nathan, I don't want you to go there. And I know that I've frustrated God because there's been times that I know He's walked away because He's going to let me figure out that I'm not going through that door. There's a verse in the Bible that says when God shuts a door, no one can open it. And no one can open the door that God shut. We don't need to spend our time and effort on a door that's closed. There's a reason why God has closed that door. There is a reason why God does what He does. We may not understand it. It says his ways are above our ways. His thoughts are above my thoughts. I don't understand why that door's closed. But guess what? There's another door that's opened. And I know that lately I've been on a kick about God opening doors. But let me just tell you my testimony one more time, because I know a lot of you weren't here. So most of you know that I've been a paramedic, and I've been with EMS for 23 years. I've been a paramedic here in Cole County for almost 12 years. There were some things that were happening, and I was kind of getting that feeling where, man, I really don't know if this is really what I want to do anymore. And Shaq knows that in this line of work, there's only so many dead bodies that you can see. There's so many overdoses that you can go to. And after a while, it wears on you mentally. It wears on you spiritually. And I felt that I was getting to the point where it was just, I was tired of getting woken up. I was tired of going to these calls. So I began to pray and ask God to open a door. You know, I went a little step further, Brother Mark. I didn't just ask for a new job, but I prayed specifics. And let me tell you something about a specific prayer. When you get down to the nitty-gritty and we start asking God for certain things, not because we're being boastful, not because we're trying to be like a spoiled child, but there's things that we ask for specifically. So I began to pray specifically. I said, number one, God, I want to make sure that I'm in church more. As the assistant pastor, I need to be here with you. You are my first priority. God didn't call me to be a paramedic. God called me to be an assistant pastor and to be an assistant pastor of this congregation. So I began to pray, God, let me be in church more. Number two, let me be with my family more. Because it's hard on my family to be gone 48 hours. And Shaq knows it's hard to be away from your family for 48 hours. And number three, I said, God, let it be more money. Once again, not because I'm trying to be prideful. And so that was the prayer that I prayed. And I would say probably, I don't know, maybe a week later, I had one of my ex-coworkers called me out of the blue. He texted me out of the blue. I haven't talked to the guy since he left EMS. He said, hey, Nathan, he said, my manager here at work asked if there was any paramedics that would be willing to come work in the cath lab. And he said, your name was the first one that came to my mind. Now, let me just back up just a second. When I prayed, I just asked God for a job. I didn't ask for a specific job. I didn't tell God what I wanted. I just said a job. And so he said, you know, you were the first one that your name came to my mind. Okay. He's like, so you know you're a good medic. I liked working with you, and I really think you do good here. So you go ahead and apply. I'm like, okay, I'll give it a whirl. Now remember, I prayed specifics. And so I filled out the application, and it was about 2-3 weeks later, and all of a sudden on a Monday, I'm at lunch with my wife, and I get this text from the HR at Boone Hospital where I had applied and said, hey, got your application. Hey, is there any way you can come in for an interview, job shadow? I'm like, sure. So I put a couple dates, and they're like, how about tomorrow, which was a Tuesday? I'm like, sure. So I go, and I have my application, I have my interview, my job shadow. That's Tuesday. And most of the time when you leave an interview, you're like, well, they're going to probably get a hold of me in a couple of weeks. No big deal, move on. Meanwhile, I'm still praying. I'm still asking God to open a door. Wednesday, I get a text and says, congratulations, Nathan. We'd like to offer you this job. Don't tell me that God doesn't open doors. Oh, Nathan, you were just lucky. No, I wasn't lucky. It's because I prayed specifically for God to open a door. So now I'm working in the cath lab at Boone Hospital, and let me tell you, Shaq, it's completely different than EMS. Sometimes I'm asking, God, why did you open this door? But I tell my wife, she always asks me, how was your day? And I'm like, man, I'm mentally drained. I don't know if I can do this. But you know, one thing that I always tell my wife is God opened this door, and I know God's going to bring me through. You see, you don't have to wonder what it's going to be like when you walk through a door that God opens. Because God doesn't open a door, push you through, and say, okay, you're on your own. Because I serve a God that says he will never leave you nor forsake you. He knows your plan. He has a path for you. And I believe that God's going to open doors for someone here this morning. You have maybe come with a door that you're like, well, I don't know about this, God. I don't know. And God's saying, that's all right. I'm on the other side. Sometimes when we go through doors, we don't know what's on the other side. But I'm here to tell somebody, God's like, I'm on the other side. I'm going to be right there. I'm going to lead you. I'm going to take you to places. And I believe this morning that God's about ready to open some doors for this city, for this church. I believe that we're going to start seeing some revival. Oh, you might call me crazy because I know that Jefferson City is predominantly Catholic. I know this. But I also know the God that I serve. I also know that I know a God that nothing is impossible with God. Amen, amen. Revelations 3:8, the worship team can come up here, says, I know your works. See, I have set before you an open door. Matthew 7, chapter 7, verses 7 through 8 says, ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and it shall be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, and he who seeks finds, and to him who knocks, it will be open. We're also warned in Matthew 7, verses 13 through 14, says, enter by the narrow gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and there are many who go in there. Because narrow is the gate, and difficult is the way which leads to life, and there are few who will find it. That struck home when I read that this morning. You see, there's a lot of people that are following the easy gate, the open gate, the wide gate, because that's the easy way to go. But that's also going through destruction. Matthew chapter 25, it's a story about the 10 virgins. Jesus using a parable. And of course, we know the wise virgins have their lamp ready. They have oil in it because they know the bridegroom's coming. But you know, the 5 foolish ones are like, we've got time. We don't have to worry about it. It's not a big deal. But look what it says in Matthew 25, verses 10. The foolish virgins are off doing their thing. It says, while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the wedding. And it says, and the door was shut. You see, the door was open, but the 5 foolish virgins missed it because they weren't ready. Afterwards, the other virgins came also saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he answered and said, surely I say to you, I do not know you. What's he saying? He's saying they came back and they banged on the door. They're saying, Lord, remember us. Hey, let us in. And he's like, I don't know you. This world is going to be shocked when the door is closed by God. There's a time that God is going to close the door. You see, now it's easy because the door's open. It's easy to live our life and do our own thing. It's easy to do that right now because the door is open. But don't let us get caught with no oil in our lamp and not waiting for the bridegroom. No man knoweth the hour. We don't know when God's going to return. But I don't want to be on this side of a closed door. And when I knock on the door, he says, I don't know you. What a sad state of affairs when God says, I don't know you. All this time, I had a door that was open, and you chose not to go through it. You chose not to go through the door that I provided for you. If you stand with me, I just want to read one more verse. Revelations 3:20 says, behold, I stand at the door and I knock. I wonder this morning how many doors that God has been sitting here knocking at. God's saying, let me in. I see your struggle. I see your hurts. I see your fears. Let me in. It says, if anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him and dine with him, and he with me. Why would we keep God out? Maybe we're afraid. Maybe there's things inside we don't want God to see. He already knows. You're not going to hide anything from God. It doesn't matter if your door is open or closed. God sees, God knows. But every day he stands and he knocks. Are you going to let me in today? I'm coming quickly. I'm coming soon. Can you hear me calling? I'm knocking at your door. I see your tears that you cry. I see the struggles that you go through. I see your heart. I see your brokenness. I see your pain. And I'm here to take it away, but you've got to let me inside. God's not going to kick your door down. God's not going to force his way in. But he's going to patiently stand there and he's going to knock. Most people, if they come to your door and you just keep the door closed and they keep knocking, eventually they're going to go away. Because they know that you don't want them. But God just sits there and constantly just keeps knocking. Because he loves you. Because he died for you. Because he cares for you. He's not going to go away easily. You're going to have to push him away and say, God, I don't want you. Other than that, he's still knocking and say, I'm here. With every head bowed, every eye closed, I wonder if there's somebody here that would search themselves and be like, do I have a door that's closed? God, are you knocking? God, I'm scared. I don't know. I don't want you to see what I've got hidden in my closet. God, I'm hurt. There's some things that have been cut deep. God, I don't want you to see my brokenness. I don't want you to see my misfortunes. God, I stumble and I fall. But I wonder if this morning if somebody would say, God, my door's open. And God, any doors that you've opened for me, any doors that I've asked for you to open, give me the strength to go through. Give me the faith to go through. To believe in you. This morning, this altar's open for somebody that's willing to let the Master in. Who's willing to say, God, I give you my all. I don't want to be caught with no oil in my lamp. I don't want to be caught in the dark. I don't want to be caught on the outside. Don't be like those who perished when the door of the ark was open and later realized it was too late. But this morning, there is an open door. And God's calling. If you knock, I will open the door. If you're struggling, God's here. God's here to help you. God's here to deliver you. I wonder who would come to the altar and say, God, I'm ready. You don't have to be embarrassed. We've all got doors that we don't want God to look. It's just like that closet you have at home. It's where all the junk goes in. When you know you got company, what do? We shove it all in the closet. Hoping and praying they don't go to that one door, but it always seems like when they go to try to find the bathroom, guess what they do? They open that door. But God doesn't care. We don't have to be ashamed. He made us. He created us. He knows our downfalls. He knows where we're at. This morning there is an open door.